In this episode, we are looking at a part of information technology, IT, that almost every employee notices immediately when it works well and complains about quickly when it does not, and that is end-user support. For a new learner, this topic may sound less dramatic than security incidents, project failures, or major system outages, but it matters deeply because it is where technology meets the daily experience of the people trying to do their jobs. When a password reset takes too long, when a printer issue keeps someone from sending an important document, when a laptop problem delays a manager's presentation, or when a new employee cannot access needed systems, end-user support becomes the face of IT in a very direct way. That is why auditors evaluate these processes with more seriousness than some beginners expect. End-user support is not just a convenience function. It affects productivity, control, user trust, service quality, and sometimes even security, because weak support processes can create confusion, workarounds, repeated errors, and risky behavior across the organization. Before we continue, a quick note. This audio course is a companion to our course companion books. The first book is about the exam and provides detailed information on how to pass it best. The second book is a Kindle-only ebook that contains 1,000 flashcards that can be used on your mobile device or Kindle. Check them both out at cyberauthor.me in the Bare Metal Study Guide series. A good place to start is by defining what end-user support processes actually include. These processes are the organized methods an organization uses to receive, classify, address, track, and resolve technology-related needs raised by the people who use systems and devices in their daily work. That can include technical incidents, service requests, account access issues, application questions, hardware problems, software support, and guidance for routine tasks that employees may not know how to complete on their own. End-user support is often associated with a help desk or service desk, but the process is broader than a single team name. It includes how requests are submitted, how they are prioritized, who handles them, how they are escalated, how users are updated, how solutions are documented, and how management checks whether support is effective over time. From an audit point of view, the important question is not just whether a support function exists. The real question is whether support is provided in a controlled, repeatable, timely, and useful way that helps the organization operate responsibly. One reason this area matters so much is that end-user support sits close to business operations. Many technology controls and investments lose practical value if ordinary users cannot get help when they need it or cannot understand how to use systems properly. A business application may be well designed, but if users struggle to access it or receive inconsistent guidance, performance suffers. A strong security rule may exist, but if the support process around it is confusing or overly slow, users may start looking for shortcuts that weaken the intended protection. This is one of the most important ideas for beginners to understand. Support processes do not exist only to solve minor annoyances. They help translate technology into dependable everyday use, and when they are weak, the effects spread far beyond the help desk. Productivity drops, user frustration rises, errors increase, and confidence in IT may erode to the point where employees avoid asking for help or create their own unofficial solutions outside normal governance. Evaluating end-user support means understanding that support is a process, not just a collection of helpful people answering questions. Good support usually follows a structured flow. A need is reported, enough information is captured, the issue is categorized, urgency and impact are assessed, the matter is assigned or escalated, progress is tracked, the user is informed, the issue is resolved or fulfilled, and the outcome is documented for future reference. If any part of that flow is weak, the process may become inconsistent and difficult to manage. An organization might have smart technicians, but still deliver poor support if requests are lost, if priorities are unclear, or if repeated issues are never documented properly. Auditors therefore look for process maturity rather than just goodwill. They want to know whether support works in a repeatable way across different people, different times, and different types of requests. That is what makes the function dependable and auditable rather than personality-driven and unpredictable. A central part of good support is the intake process, which is simply the way users first ask for help. This may seem basic, but weak intake creates many downstream problems. If users do not know where to go, if requests are submitted through too many unofficial channels, or if important details are not captured early, then delays and confusion begin immediately. A strong intake process gives users a clear path for getting help and makes it easier for the organization to collect the right information the first time. That includes who the user is, what system is affected, what the problem looks like, how urgent it is, and whether the issue might affect other users or important operations. From an audit perspective, clear intake supports accountability and visibility. It helps management know what support demand actually looks like, and it reduces the chance that serious issues disappear inside emails, hallway conversations, or direct messages that never enter a formal tracking process. Good support begins with visibility, and visibility begins at intake. Once a request enters the process, categorization and prioritization become very important. Not every issue is equally urgent, and not every request deserves the same response speed. A manager needing access to a routine application for next week is different from a payroll system failure on the day salaries must be processed. A minor display problem on one user's laptop is different from a network disruption affecting a whole department. Support processes need a reasonable way to distinguish between these situations so that attention goes where it is most needed. This is not only about speed. It is also about fairness, consistency, and risk awareness. Auditors want to see whether the organization has defined how requests are classified and whether staff apply those definitions in a reasonably consistent manner. If everything is marked urgent, the process loses meaning. If truly important issues are treated casually, users and business leaders may lose trust. Good prioritization helps connect technical response to actual business impact, which is one of the core goals in effective support. Communication is another major element, and it is often where users form their strongest opinions about support quality. People can tolerate some delay when they understand what is happening, but uncertainty tends to create frustration very quickly. If users submit requests and hear nothing back, or if they receive confusing updates that do not explain the next step, they may assume the issue has been ignored even when staff are actively working on it. Strong end-user support includes timely acknowledgement, understandable status updates, realistic expectations, and respectful closure once the matter is resolved. The goal is not to overwhelm users with technical detail. The goal is to keep them informed in a way that supports confidence and reduces repeated follow-up. Auditors evaluate communication because it affects efficiency as well as experience. Poor communication often leads to duplicate requests, informal escalation, manager complaints, and a growing gap between what support teams think they are delivering and what users believe they are receiving. Clear communication helps hold the process together when pressure rises. Another valuable concept for beginners is the difference between resolving a problem and simply making it disappear from view. Some support environments fall into the trap of closing requests quickly to improve reported performance, even when the underlying issue remains only partially addressed. A user may receive a temporary workaround, but the real cause may remain unresolved. A ticket may be closed because the user stopped replying, even though the experience was poor. A recurring application problem may be handled again and again as separate cases without anyone stepping back to notice the repeated pattern. Auditors pay close attention to this because support quality is not measured well by closure alone. Good end-user support should aim for meaningful resolution, not just administrative completion. That means understanding whether the user can perform the needed task, whether repeated issues are identified, and whether temporary fixes are being used too often in place of more durable improvement. A process that looks efficient on paper can still be weak if it mainly hides recurrence rather than reducing it. Knowledge management plays an important role here, even though beginners do not always connect it with support at first. A strong support function learns over time. When common issues are documented clearly, when known solutions are stored in an organized way, and when patterns are reviewed for reuse, support becomes faster and more consistent. New staff can handle routine issues more confidently. Experienced staff do not need to reinvent the answer each time, and users may even be able to solve some simple problems through approved self-service guidance. This does not mean replacing people with documents. It means capturing organizational learning so that support is not entirely dependent on memory or individual experience. Auditors may evaluate whether the organization maintains useful knowledge resources, whether common issues are analyzed, and whether the support process improves from repeated experience. Weak knowledge practices create unnecessary delays and inconsistency, especially when staff turnover occurs. Strong knowledge practices help convert repeated support effort into lasting operational value, which is one sign that the process is maturing instead of merely reacting. Escalation is another part of support that deserves careful evaluation. Frontline support cannot solve everything, and that is completely normal. The important question is whether the organization knows when and how to move an issue to the right level without confusion or excessive delay. Some matters require technical specialists, some need vendor involvement, some need management decisions, and some may indicate larger operational or security concerns. If escalation paths are unclear, support staff may hold issues too long, hoping to resolve them alone, or may pass them around without clear ownership until users become frustrated. A healthy process defines what should be escalated, to whom, under what conditions, and how responsibility is tracked after the handoff. Auditors care about this because many serious failures begin as routine support requests that were not recognized early enough as something larger. Clear escalation helps connect everyday support with incident response, problem management, vendor management, and operational oversight, making the organization more coherent instead of leaving each function isolated. Security and control considerations are deeply connected to end-user support, even if the topic first sounds mainly operational. Support teams often help with password resets, access questions, device replacement, software installation, and troubleshooting activities that touch sensitive systems or user identities. That means weak support practices can create security exposure very quickly. If identity is not verified properly before access help is provided, unauthorized users may gain entry. If exceptions are granted casually to solve a short-term problem, control consistency may weaken. If support staff have powerful privileges but their actions are not monitored appropriately, the process may introduce hidden risk. Auditors therefore examine whether support procedures include reasonable control points, whether approvals are clear, whether sensitive requests receive additional scrutiny, and whether convenience is balanced properly with security. Good support is not about saying yes to every request as quickly as possible. It is about helping users effectively while still respecting the organization's control environment and protecting systems, information, and access in a disciplined way. Measurement is also important, but like many audit topics, the value of measurement depends on what is being measured and how honestly the results are used. Organizations often track things like response times, resolution times, backlog size, repeat requests, user satisfaction, and aging of open cases. These measures can be helpful, but they should support insight rather than performance theater. If staff are pressured only to close items quickly, they may prioritize speed over quality. If the organization measures satisfaction without examining recurring issues, it may miss deeper process weaknesses. Auditors evaluating end-user support want to know whether metrics reflect what truly matters, whether trends are reviewed over time, and whether results lead to improvement when problems are identified. A good measurement approach helps management understand workload, bottlenecks, training needs, communication gaps, and repeated failure points. A poor approach produces neat-looking reports while users continue to struggle with the same issues in different forms week after week. There are several common weaknesses that show up in end-user support processes, and recognizing them helps beginners understand what auditors notice. One common problem is inconsistent handling, where similar requests receive very different treatment depending on who happens to pick them up. Another is poor documentation, which makes it hard to understand what was done, whether approvals existed, or why the issue keeps returning. Some organizations rely too heavily on informal support through side conversations, which may feel fast in the moment but weakens tracking and accountability. Others suffer from chronic backlog, unclear ownership, poor knowledge sharing, or a culture where support staff are expected to solve everything immediately without enough training or process support. These weaknesses do not always come from laziness or bad intentions. Often they reflect rapid growth, understaffing, weak governance, or years of habits that were never formalized properly. Auditors look past the surface symptoms to understand whether the process itself helps people succeed or quietly makes repeated failure more likely. From an audit standpoint, evaluating end-user support processes means gathering evidence from several angles rather than relying only on what managers say. The auditor may review support procedures, request records, classification rules, escalation paths, response metrics, training materials, knowledge resources, user feedback, and samples of completed tickets. Interviews with support staff and users can reveal whether the documented process matches daily reality. A mature environment usually shows consistent intake, reasonable prioritization, clear communication, documented actions, appropriate escalation, and measurement tied to improvement. A weaker environment often shows missing information, unresolved repeat issues, confusion over ownership, informal workarounds, and a support function that is constantly busy but not clearly effective. The goal of evaluation is not to criticize people for handling a high volume of problems. It is to determine whether the process helps the organization resolve issues in a reliable, controlled, user-centered way that supports broader operational and security objectives rather than undermining them through inconsistency or neglect. As we close, the main idea to carry forward is that evaluating end-user support processes is really about asking whether the organization can help its people use technology dependably, safely, and efficiently when real-world problems arise. Support is often the most visible part of IT for ordinary employees, but it is also far more than a visible service counter. It shapes productivity, user behavior, control integrity, and the organization's ability to respond to recurring issues in a structured way. Strong support processes provide clear intake, sensible prioritization, useful communication, meaningful resolution, controlled escalation, and learning over time. Weak support processes create frustration, hidden risk, repeated inefficiency, and pressure for users to bypass official channels. For an auditor, this area matters because daily support is where many small issues either get resolved responsibly or grow into larger operational and control problems. When end-user support is disciplined and well-designed, it helps the entire organization function with more confidence, consistency, and resilience.
Thanks for listening. For more audio courses, daily newsletters, and more, please visit baremetalcyber.com.